Welcome to the virtual Venture Cafe, everyone. A very special welcome to our first-time community members. It is our annual InsurTech conference. Such a great pleasure to host it here virtually with you all attending. Venture Cafe is a nonprofit organization. All of the programming we put together is free and open to everyone in the community. And this is made possible by the support coming from our corporate partners, such as SOMPO Digital Lab, who are supporting our InsurTech event today. Thank you very much, SOMPO. A round of applause for you. And a couple of ground rules before we kick it off. Please keep yourself muted unless you're asked by our presenters to share your thought or share your question by speaking. Otherwise, just ask your questions in the chat box. And if you prefer to keep your identity discreet, please send the questions directly to the speakers. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Joseph Schmidt, who will be running this session today. Joseph Schmidt is the Vice President of Business Development at SOMPO Digital Lab. SOMPO is a leading Tokyo-based insurance, healthcare, and senior care conglomerate with over 25 years of experience in Japan and tech industries. Joe plays a key role in enabling global digital health startups to succeed in Japan. And today he is here with us in Boston. So over to you, Joe.
Thank you, Yulia, for having us, and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. Today we're going to talk about a very nascent field, namely insuring service robots. As you may know, service robots are a growing market in Japan. So we felt particularly qualified to talk about this subject. Without further ado, I'd like to bring on my colleague, Taro Kaihara, who is a senior manager at SOMPO Digital Lab. Taro-san, take it away, please. Thanks.
Okay. Can you hear me? And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for joining us today. I'm Taro, Senior Manager of SOMPO Digital Lab. We are very excited to sponsor this event as a partner of CIC and the Venture Cafe. SOMPO Digital Lab is based in West Coast Bay Area nearby San Francisco, but we've been partnering with CIC and Venture Cafe since 2017. So thank you for all of your support, Justin, Yulia, and Chris, and your folks at the CIC and the Venture Cafe. So actually, this is the second time to sponsor the virtual Thursday gathering. 2 months ago, we sponsored the virtual Thursday gathering, which focused on digital health. We took healthcare opportunities in Japan as a theme, and we focused on the female tech, femtech, as one of the specific opportunities in Japan. So today is InsurTech. This is our home ground. So the kickoff part of this session, please let me introduce ourselves, who is SOMPO and who is SOMPO Digital Lab, and why we are here. So this is our logo, SOMPO Holdings, and this is our origin. Our original company was established in 1888. So actually, SOMPO is a 133 years old company. And we were established as the first fire insurance company in Japan. And more than 100 years ago in Japan, the house was wooden. So house fire happened very, very frequently in the residential area. So that's why we started to offer the fire insurance for homeowners and also firefighting as a service. I believe that this is one of the very early as a service business in the global history, I think. And these men were formulated a private firefighting community in the community to help the people in need. So I believe that this fundamental philosophy is the same as now too. And then we've grown up over 130 plus years. And currently we have roughly 33 billion US dollars as global revenues. And we have 80,000 of employees as global. And we have more than 20 million customers in Japan. And now we have 4 business domains in our group. The first one is domestic P&C insurance, which is an original one for us, and still the biggest business portion in our group. We also have overseas businesses among 30 countries and regions, We also have domestic life insurance, so-called SOMPO Humanoid Life. And the green one is a relatively new domain for us. We entered the elderly nursing care business and also healthcare service businesses in the last 5 years. So currently, we SOMPO Care is operating almost 400 living facilities and 26,000 of units for elderly people who need care. So these numbers are the biggest care operator in Japan. And this business is completely separated from the insurance business. This is totally service businesses for the people who need care or in need. And as a new example, we were developing a mobility as a service business in Japan under the SOMPO's brand. We started this business with DNA, which is a gaming IT company in Japan. The left side shows Anika, which is offering a P2P car sharing platform similar to Getaround or Turo in the United States. And of course, we can offer the insurance coverage to these kind of a new type of business as an insurance company. However, more than this, we are interested in these type of the business models that offer a new customer experience as a service provider. So more than 100 plus years, we are constantly evolving our business model. It's from fire insurance to auto insurance, life insurance, nursing care, healthcare, and also mobility services. So we are diversifying our business model from just an insurance paper policy provider to service provider, which is related to our corporate slogan, innovation for well-being. So as you can see, SOMPO is a quite big company, but also very entrepreneurship mindset company. And we'd like to be agile and innovative and willing to do new things, and also a global company based in Tokyo. In this sense, we need more open innovation. So that's why we started, for expediting our initiative, we launched SOMPO Digital Lab in Tokyo and here in the US in 2016. And also as a third location, we launched SOMPO Digital Lab Tel Aviv in Israel 2 years ago. And in the US, we are fostering our innovation platform like this. We are the limited partners of these bridges, and we made a partnership with these accelerators and incubators, including CIC and Mass Challenge in New England area. And also we made a partnership with academias, including MIT ILP. And also we believe the value of the design. So not only for the service development, but also corporate culture changing. We've been doing several projects with these design firms. And SOMPO Digital Lab, our role is a kind of a bridge between the global innovation and SOMPO businesses, mainly in Japan. We'd like to position ourselves as a platform for entering in Japanese market. As a symbolic initiative, last fall, we SOMPO established Palantir Technology Japan by 50-50 joint venture with Peter Thiel. As familiar to Palantir is Peter Thiel's world-leading data science company. And as the latest activity, last month, we SOMPO Group invested $500 million US to Palantir as a lead investor. So what I want to say, we are not just their user, we are the partner for them to build the data business in Japan together. So we can utilize data from our current business like caregiving, auto insurance, life insurance, healthcare services, and also from our partners. So we are seriously thinking that the data business will be our new business domain in the near future. So anyway, we SOMPO Digital is in charge of the roll-up bridge between global innovation and Japanese market like this. Okay, so this is the last my slide. So you got to know about SOMPO and you got to know about SOMPO Digital Lab, who we are and why we are here. So today's theme is the InsurTech. So, but when we heard about this theme, honestly, I felt it's not so fun for you just talking about the opportunity of insurance industry. So that's why we took smart robotics / insurance as the theme of today. And as Joe mentioned earlier, smart robotics is entering our daily living gradually, but also certainly. So I think that this COVID-19 situation will make it expediting from the needs of the people. And the insurance industry should take some roles for helping and expediting this growth as it used to be. So from the following session, you can see what is happening around these topics and how insurance company and insurance industry can help this growth. So today we invited two speakers from startup side. Tura, COO at Omni Labs. She will present about the opportunity for service robotics. And Gak-san, CEO at Modular, he will tell us about lots of insights from data platform perspective. So I hope it will be very insightful sessions for everybody here today. Okay, so again, thank you for joining us today, and please enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you.
Okay, great, Kaihara-san. You stole all my thunder. I was hoping to introduce Tra and our speakers today, but that's okay. So Tra Vu from CEO of Omni Labs and Cambria is up next, and she will give us really kind of a global perspective on the service robotics market. And it's a great pleasure to have her have Tra here today with us. So Tra, take it away, your turn.
Thank you so much, Joe, and Taro as well. It's our pleasure to be here. I represent Omni Labs and Cambria. We are a robotics company in Silicon Valley. And this forum, and I'm hopeful that with this forum, we are able to provide you with a background on the global view of service, all the robotic services. So I'm going to start sharing my presentation. Hope you are able to see it. Okay. So let me just start this presentation with a quick poll. If you don't mind jumping, thank you so much. So 20 seconds. The question here is, what is the global market for robotics? And I'm talking about right now. What do you think the global market for robotics is? Thank you, everybody. Okay, it's just, there you are. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to end the poll now, and we're going to show the results. Are you able to still see the results so far? So it looks like it's a quite even split. We all believe that the market, the global market for robotics is extensive, and a third of the audience thinks that is 50 billion, a third thinks that it's 75 billion, and a third 100 billion. I think that in terms of, so may I close this now? Thank you. The result is 75 billion. So that's the current number, but you are right. I think that there is quite a wide range of estimates, because it's quite hard to capture the actual markets of the global robotics, and you can imagine how that would be. And if you look at different sources, it does range from 50 billion to about 100 billion. So I would say that this audience is very savvy, and you guys are you guys know exactly, you have a great pulse on where the global robotics market is. I want to step back a little bit to give you a context of why I am speaking to you. So the global market is very varied. And what we get to do at Omni Labs is to be at the beginning of that very long life cycle for robotics. We manufacture robots. We manufacture robots and robotics platform to enable service provider to give the care, the security, and provide all that services to their customers. we are at the very early on of that. We enable a lot of the services to happen. And I am sitting in San Jose. So we were founded in 2015 in Santa Clara, but now I'm in San Jose. And in our facility, we build different type of robots that are delivered to the healthcare essential workers, as you can see there, or providing them to families at the same way for them to create services out of that. And then, as life cycle for robotics, there's a lot more. You use a robot, right? As an end user, you could be the one that are driving the robots, or you could be the one receiving the services from the robot. And of course, there are services such as insurance related to how we can provide this, or how we can have the peace of mind, right? So service robot, step back a little bit here. Service robot is a robot that performs useful tasks. And truly the idea behind service robot is not to replace any human. It is about humanizing the experience, right? These days, we are always thinking about robots and afraid that in a way, robot is going to take away jobs. Service robot is designed to have human at the center of this experience. I think that's a key differentiator between a service robot and any other type of robotics is that, industrial robot has been around for many, many years. I mean, it has truly taken over the manufacturing floor. But service robot, and where we are right now, is at the center. The human experience is at the center of this service. So if you are afraid that the application of service robot is going to remove jobs, I am here to say that of all the robots that we provide, there needs to be a human to drive it, and there needs to be a human at the other end of it to receive that service. The robot enable the services to be able to streamline, to make people's experience better, to enhance the service. So a few more polls very quickly. We have 2 polls that are coming up right now. What do you think is a compound annual growth rate of the service robot market? And the second question is, in what industry do you think that service robots are experiencing the most demand? And do take into the global pandemic into questions. Of course, we do see there are different trends that have happened, unfortunately, but the pandemic is forcing some trends. For the second questions, you can choose all the industries that apply. I hope that's possible. All right. Okay, we are still getting votes coming through. Thank you so much for participating. More than 60% of people have voted. This is excellent. Thank you so much for participating. So I'll give you 2 more seconds and ending the poll now. So I'm sharing the results of the audience here. And what you are seeing is that we believe that there is about a compound of 16% to 26%. And the answer here is that it used to be 16% and now it's 26%. So if you had gotten the information, maybe if you ask these questions, and if I were to ask this question just a year ago, or maybe just 9 months ago, the answer was 16%. But now with the global pandemic, actually the compounding rate is expected to rise at about 26% annually. And that's, just think about the compounding rate is quite amazing. And in terms of industries that are experiencing the most demand, you're absolutely right. Healthcare is one of the 2 industries. The other one is logistics. So, wow, great job, great job. So healthcare and logistics, and this is. And of all the state of the industry, right, in the global view of our robotics and service robotic industry alone, is that there is going to be an enormous amount of spending. The global spend for the the platform just to date is 600 million, but it is projected to go to 25 billion, and this is service robots. So, you know, when we started this conversation, we talked about the global robotics industry, and now we are just diving down into the service robot, and that bubble is growing really, really, really fast. And the projection currently for the global spending on robot is by 2025 is 151 billion. What does that mean for any industries? You know, every stakeholder in the industry. I can share at least our experience in terms of the approach to robotics. You know, as a company at the beginning of this life cycle for service robotics, we have a choice of going either vertical, which is, you know, you decide on a robot and it's very specific task, and you just build a robot from there. And I'll give you an example that a lot of people are familiar with, which is the Roomba. So this vacuum robot, it does very specific things. It is quite popular, and a lot of consumers have it. That's one approach. The other approach is to be a platform that goes across the board. You create a baseline platform that allows many verticals to build on top. And just stepping back in terms of what is the right approach, we don't have the answers to that, but we have taken as a company, what we call a horizontal approach. And the horizontal approach to robotics is where we divide our core technology into modules that can work on its own. And from each of those modules, you can pick and choose, and you can create the platform that serves a vertical. And that is the type of, for us, we've learned that this method has worked well, this approach has worked well in accelerating the adoption of service robots. And in this pyramid of taking different core modules, applying them under the base of Omni telepresence platform, you can service a virtual visit service industry very well. And that is apparent by one of the more well-known services that you've seen so far is graduation. I don't know if anyone has graduated recently here. I want to say congratulations for making it through a big part of your journey. And I'm sorry to hear that you couldn't attend the graduation. But for quite a few people around the world, you could have attended the graduation through robots. And those robots, as the one you see here, the Tokyo University, is a robot that Omni Lab had created. And that was done using the approach that I was talking to you about, is that we're taking these core modules, combine them together on top of telepresence to service the one vertical. And the reason why this worked was because within just a few years, we are able to take a concept to life in 2-3 years, and the potential of growth from 0 to 100,000 units in 5 years. So we can, my final thoughts on this is that for us, we want to impart a welcoming and heartfelt, basically to us, we want to say that while robot is going to, what people fear that it will take over, I don't think that we should worry so much about it from the service robot's perspective, because the human has to be at every single part of this journey. So we just have to learn to be able to incorporate it into our daily life, and in order to give that peace of mind, I wanted to hand it over to Shinya, who talk about how to give you that peace of mind. So thank you so much again for giving me this opportunity, and Shinya, please take it away.
Great, thanks so much, Tra. Really appreciate your presentation. Very, very illuminating. So up next, we have Shinya Fujimoto, who is also a colleague of mine at SOMPO Digital Lab. He will present on the emergence of service robots and the role of insurance in that emerging market. So Shinya, take it away, please. Thanks.
All right, let me share my screen here. If I do this right. Okay, can y'all see us?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So thanks for the intro. My name is Shinya Fujimoto. I work for SOMPO Digital Lab, and I'm in charge of coming up with new business models, new business, and accelerating the digital transformation of SOMPO at SOMPO Digital Lab in Silicon Valley. Before we go into the presentation, I want to give a quick intro of myself. I came to the US over 20 years ago, originally as a chip design engineer. I was making chips for video games, PlayStation. And then that led me to get to know a little startup in Kyoto, ex-Nintendo guys, really cool. And they were making robots, but it was actually paper robots, but it was really cool. So I started importing and selling them on the side, but building a small business from scratch was getting really fun. So I ditched the tech job and started doing that solely, import, trade, wholesale, e-commerce. And then in about 10 years, after we've been selling to over 300 or so museums and gift shops around the nation here, I started to miss my soul food from Osaka. It's called okonomiyaki. I don't know if you have that. It's like a savory pancake. So I called one of the national chains in Japan, asked them to open up a shop in the US, and they're like, oh, why don't you open it? So long story short, I started an okonomiyaki restaurant, first branch in US 4 years ago. And once my cravings got fixed, that's around time when SOMPO called me. They were looking for someone with diverse experience and not necessarily in insurance. So that's what brought me here today. And I've been with SOMPO for a year and a half, coming up with different ideas and going through the digital transformation together. But it shows, I think, to what Taro was saying earlier, that SOMPO is trying to grow beyond just insurance, traditional insurance, and growing beyond and looking for new opportunities by the fact that I'm here today. All right, so today's presentation, I've set 4 goals. One is to just connect the dots. We're looking to connect with different partners, small to big, that share our vision. Hear us out, what you think about our vision, and let's get connected, right? The second point was for us to familiarize you with some of the challenges that Japanese society is facing today. I'll show you a couple stats that you might have heard, but maybe not in the perspective that I'm going to be presenting here. And with that in mind, we want to find new technologies and brainstorm together with our partners and shape that future of the robot entering our society. We don't think we can do all of this ourselves. So let's find a winning solution together and accelerate us preparing for that future. And then last but not least, take advantage of SOMPO. Of course, not in a bad way, right? But SOMPO, as Taro mentioned, is a big company, 60, 80,000, I forget the number, right, of employees and 20-some billion. So there are certainly things that startups can take advantage of SOMPO, accelerating their growth into the global market. And same for us, right? We might be big, but we might not be as nimble and agile. So help us out, help us get, and let's work together in building a safe and secure society with the robots coming in a few years. So now I want to do a poll here. So this 49%, what do you think this number represents? I give you 4 choices. Percentage of Japanese who own a cleaning robot, employees who use AI robot work, jobs that can be replaced by a robot, percentage of employees that trust robots more than the manager. I'll give you about 10 seconds more. And feel free to throw a question or two in the comments. I might not be able to address it right away, but I'm sure Joe's going to pick it up during the panel. And if it's too hard, the insurance question, I'll throw it to Taro. So, all right, let's close the poll now and share the results. Okay, so everyone, so I got 46% for C. So you guys, I guess you did the homework. That's right. It's the percentage of jobs in Japan that can be replaced by AIs and robots in the next decade or two. And it's a research based in Cambridge, so that's, you might have heard from that, but that was adapted for the Japanese market and run in Japan by Nomura Research Institute a couple of years ago. By the way, the percentage of employees that trust robots more than the manager was 76%. Okay, so let's keep that number in mind, and I'll show you the population trend in Japan by age group. So here's the total population of Japan, running around 120, 130 million. And then the working force, and I'm kind of using that term loosely, between age 15 and 65, a little bit less than 80. And then you start seeing the growing senior population. Sorry if you're 65, but over age 65, I'm saying senior here. And you might have heard about this, but let's look at it from this perspective, right? In the 70s, there were 0.12 seniors per workforce. What does that mean, right? So it means the working force, each population, the working force were supporting 0.12 seniors. And in the 90s, that grew to 0.18. And then in 2018, it's grown to 0.48. Almost 2 people working were supporting 1 senior. Kind of scary. And that leads me to talking about this presentation, the bulk of it, robots in society. We are faced with this next evolution, just like we went through from that Taro slide where we were originally doing fire insurance, and then we got cars and sea and all that. And now it's robots. The advancements in computing are helping, the communication speeds are lowering the entry bar of robots, becoming really helpful in the society, as you saw in Tra's presentation. And I just showed you that Japan's actually, whether they like it or not, they're being forced to fill that gap of the robots to help the labor shortages. And then with that, it would create new opportunities, new challenges, not just for insurance. I say insurance here, but not just insurance, but as a whole. And there are a bunch of robots that are being developed as we speak, and it's pretty chaotic. Let me show you this. So here I'm showing you different robots across different industries. You know, here's a communication robot, guide robots, entertainment drones, cleaning robots. I mean, you name it. It's kind of scary how many robots are being developed or out in the field already. So it's not like there aren't robots that can enter the society. It's there. And the COVID situation, like Tra was saying, isn't slowing that down. I mean, at the end of the day, I want to get back to the restaurants, eating, watch a ball game, and live a healthy, happy life with my family, right? But the reality today is there's robots that's serving you at the restaurants, there's robots that's cheerleading for you at a stadium, and then there's teledoc robots. So kind of going back to the 49% number. That's kind of like the glass half empty, half full. Like Tra was saying, it's not all doom and gloom because, for example, the serving robot into the left, it's not fully autonomous. It's controlled by remotely by actually a paralyzed woman. She's never worked before, but the emergence of robots, technology, communication has allowed her to take on the first job of her life, working as a server remotely, controlling the robots. But So that's what I mean by, it's not everything's lost. There's new opportunities. And then there's other areas too, right? Like the delivery, there could be autonomous cars, entertainment. Here you're seeing robot restaurant in Shinjuku. There's caregiving, maintenance. Maintenance is another area, right? We see a lot of auto repair shops today. If there's so many robots that gets into the society, we should start seeing a lot more maintenance facilities. But each of these new opportunities will be faced with some of the familiar risks for insurers, maybe in a different way, but still something that needs to be thought through to adapt as an insurance industry. And then a lot of things might go virtual, just like this presentation today, right? But some things would still stay physical. I hope I still get physical food before in the next 20 years. Delivery service, I say here, could be autonomous, but there's always someone in the back operating. It's not going to be all virtual, was my point. And again, for the insurance industry, the safety and security needs to be provided regardless, whether it's virtual, physical, it doesn't really matter. And we just have to keep adapting to the new environment. So for the insurance industry, what are some of the challenges? And I've listed 3 here. First, where to draw the line? Machine versus robot. So yeah, we've had robots, what people call robots in factory automation robots, but are those the same robots that we're talking in this presentation? No, right? The autonomous car, drones, those aren't the same robots as the FA robots. But there's always going to be a gray line. So that woman that was working as a server that's remotely controlled, it's a gray line where you call it a robot or a machine. Liability is another topic that needs to be addressed. Whose fault is it? It's not as easy as before because these robots are really complex. I mean, it could be the mechanical failure, it could be the software or the network, the cloud's failing. It could be the software or the maintenance shop. Maybe they put a wrong screw in or something. So it's really hard to determine when there is a liability issue, whose fault it is. And then collecting that data, right? There's going to be robots roaming around where there's no human presence. And each of these robots spit out gazillions of data every second. How to keep track of all that data, how to use that data for us humans to make good use of, right? To detect early detection of malfunction or effectiveness of the robots. I mean, you could go on and on. And in that sense, we need to manage the data in a sane way. And this is one example of a product by Mode called Robot Cloud. And Gaku is the CEO of Mode, and he'll join us in the panel. So you can ask him about this product itself. But what basically this does is determining where the robots are, if there's any issues, the location, maintenance issues. Everything is in the dashboard in a way that normal people can assess the situation. So it might not be rocket science, but being able to sanely handle gazillion of data that's being transmitted to the cloud is not an easy task to do. Secondly, if there is an issue, being able to play back the incident. If we have control of the data, we could replay the incident and determine what really happened. So this is another area that we are looking at actively, and we need to be doing the same in many areas, not just in the data, but there's a lot of opportunities out there, and we would also need some help filling in the holes. So getting back to the goals, connecting the dots, I hope I gave you a glimpse of our vision and that we are open in talking with startups to big enterprises who are looking to enter the Japanese market. Let's work together. And I think I gave you a good intro to the dire situation in the Japanese market. And then it's not like we know everything. No one knows, right? So we want to pick your brain. I mean, do brainstorm together of different opportunities out there, challenges, and work for the efficient solution together. And then again, take advantage of SOMPO. We would be able to accelerate your entry to the market in Japan and help us prepare for the near future when the robots will be entering more into the society. That's it. Thank you very much. And contact me through LinkedIn, or you could make a note that you saw this presentation so I at least know where you're coming from, and we'll talk more later. Thanks. Back to you, Joe.
Okay, thank you, Shinya. Very enlightening. I think there's a huge opportunity for global startups interested in Japan, whether they're focused on robotics or insurance for robotics. So please let us know. Don't hesitate to contact us or Shinya if you're interested in working with us. So the next segment is our panel discussion, and we'll be joined by Shinya and Tra. And Gaku Ueda from Mode will be joining us for the panel as well. So before we proceed with our conversation, I was hoping Gaku could introduce himself briefly.
Yeah. So thank you for introduction. My name is Gaku Ueda, and I'm the CEO of Mode. And we are collecting data from the real world. We specialize in data collection and then make it available for data processing. We've been around since 2014. Our office is in near San Francisco Airport. The office has been empty for a while, but we know about what's going on in the office because we have a lot of sensors in the office. We released the Robot Cloud, which was shown by Shinya a little bit previously. That one, we started working on helping service robot companies or service robot operators to manage their robots, mainly for maintenance and troubleshooting purposes since last year. So it was actually before COVID-19. But during COVID-19 and with the pandemic, certainly the demand for the service robot management is going up. So we are putting a lot of effort to progress our solution. So that's a brief introduction of what I am and what Mode is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gaku. Really appreciate that. So now we're going to move into our panel. I'm a public relations person by background, so I really love the opportunity to put on a reporter's guise and ask questions this time of our panelists. So my first question really is for everyone. I think it would be helpful if you could paint a picture, help us visualize how humans and service robots will interact 10 years from now. How mainstream will service robots be? I know in healthcare, especially with the pandemic, there's been a great interest in the utilization of service robots, but just across various industries, in hospitality, in retail, how ubiquitous will service robots be? So anyone, Shinya or Gaku or Tra?
Okay, so I'll go first.
Okay, Gaku was first, so
yeah.
you can follow up.
So yeah, I think in 10 years, the robot adoption will be tremendously different from today's. And I think like this is my personal view, but it's like some kind of like a anime or sci-fi world. It's probably not the dystopian version of it, but in more like a positive way, like the people thinking about the robot is running around the city is actually, I think it's happening. And this time is it's a breakthrough to go over the hump of like robot presence becomes normal versus like right now it's like, I think like if you see robot, it's not normal, but in a year or so, you start to see robots in actual like a real life, like airport, retail facility. And then once that like you get used to it, I think like the adoption will accelerate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Tra, what's your take?
I very much aligned with Gaku here. In fact, what we see in Japan is our customers who use a robot in public places is changing the paradigm. You know, they're changing a mindset in a lot of the local folks. Is that you started seeing robots in schools or at airports because of these contactless solutions that people are looking for in order to get back to normal life. So because of such public presence, the mindset is starting to change. For me, I feel that the use of robot in care services, and this is not only in hospital, but even in the home, is going to take shape more so than before. And I can speak from our own experience working with students or children that cannot go to, so basically these children suffer from some illness and they cannot walk anymore. Now they are bedridden and they need to be able to communicate and have that normal life to help them feel that they can overcome some of these challenges. And they are carrying out their daily life through a robot. They're going to school through a robot. They're doing play zone through a robot. And when kids are doing this, maybe the next generations are getting used to it. They live their life through a robot, and you know, it's almost as if they don't see a barrier, right? They feel like they were having fun. Their faces light up, and all of this. And when you see that, you see a transition in the next generation where children are going to say, okay, I'm all familiar with it. I'm comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's yeah, I can totally identify with that. But I think one of the issues that robotics faces is cost. And so my next question is, at what point will service robots be accessible to consumers? When will the price point, you know, come down for?
I wish there was another poll that I could run. How much do you think?
No, I know this is I'm sure you appreciate this question because Omni Labs robots are very affordable. But just generally speaking,
I think there's a lot of interesting financial models that are available where people don't have to take the cost of a robot up front. So yes, you're right. The robot cost could be a very wide range. You know, on the affordable range like ours is only at $2,000. So you can talk about hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even close to $1 million. But because a lot of the robots now are being served to the end users as a service, the cost is amortized over time, and it's amortized over a very specific use of that service. So I think that if the public is opened to the idea of working and being serviced by robot through another human, right? So another human is controlling this robot. Is that the financial the financial models are going to work out very well either way.
Okay, good. So Shinya, do you have a take on?
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with Kra, and I want to kind of expand that notion to not just narrowing it to one particular robot per se, right? I mean, once we think of the business model as a more of a big economy, not just one particular area. There could be new businesses that would kind of pop up, like the robot maintenance facility. I mean, once people start seeing these economical benefits, opportunities to create new cash flow, not just to pay off this robot, but some totally new. And to allow that, I mean, I think the tech engineering wise, people, like I showed you in my presentation, there's so many advancements that's being made, but I think it's now more on the social society and the business side to put together a good proposal to make a viable new business that would interest, a lot of the entrepreneurs out there, not just from the technical perspective. One could be that, I mentioned that there's so many data that's hard for people to even, human beings to absorb, right? So if there's standardization across the different robots out there, the data format, for example, and that would create a new software company that would manage that efficiently. And that might create an ad agency that takes good use of it. And then, it kind of branches off and creates new markets, I think. And that would help the deployment of the robots and bring the cost down.
So you're talking about basically an ecosystem that enables
the
deployment of robots. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so my next question is really intended for Tra and Gaku, with robotics companies, robotics startups in mind. And so as you've led these your companies, what kind of issues have you encountered that might necessitate insurance, whether liability issues and whatnot?
So for us, because we build physical robots, there are many points where liability can happen. The goal for us is to build a product that brings a lot of value to the users, right? So when value is at the core of what we are trying to do here, we wanted to drive it down across the board. So just before this webinar started, we talked about the fact that OmniLabs does what we call just-in-time manufacturing. We don't build robots when there's no demand. The moment that there is an order, we kick off the 3D printing farm, and the 3D printing farm prints the parts that builds this robot. And in that process alone, there's already liability in terms of there's human resources for manufacturing and then delivering this robot. So there's transportations that actually cause some issues these days. I mean, robots is, at the end of the day, it's still a very fragile product, right? You put it in a box and you're delivering it over thousands of miles, and there are things that can happen during that transportation. And then the user gets it, and then the user is using it. And then there's during the life cycle of a robot, which is about 5 years or more, there's many things that can happen. So right now, because the maturity of the insurance hasn't been around for a while, for at least for robotics for us, is that what we've done is we have to design the reductions of liability into our products. So this is the reason why our products are very light. Our robot is 18 pounds, right? It's a human-sized robot that is 18 pounds for a reason. And it is because we want to reduce that liability of any health or security or even, bodily damage, harm that could even possibly caused by a robot. It wouldn't happen because it's only 18 pounds. So all of this is done in the design. Yeah.
So it's just the reduction of complexity and just elegant design is the best risk mitigation.
Right, but it's out of necessity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Gaku, what's your take?
Yeah, that's great to hear from the actual first-hand experience from Tra. the surge of service robots, actually, like I think that I actually spoke to a lot of robot manufacturers, and everyone is talking about like slow speed robots. So like fast speed autonomous vehicle was very hard a few years ago, and the technology is shared between these robots, service robots, and autonomous vehicles, and the boom of autonomous vehicle is actually like kind of like going down because it's like safety is the biggest issue, and and like legal liabilities. So slow speed robot not killing people like even by accident is important, and that's like actually like that's a reminder of the same story from Tra. That and the interesting thing, so we are not building robots, but we are like handling data from our customer who's robot service providers. I won't say like which company, but the interesting thing is like robot, especially not controlled by human, is not still perfect. So like a lot of issues happening in reality, like sensors is misunderstanding, the robot is behaving unexpected way when some condition like the light is like completely white out the camera, for example. So those things could happen, and it seems like it is happening more than everyone think. So, and actually like when you're providing robot as a service, so and not controlled by human, who's responsible? It's very likely to be service provider. So actually a lot of company is like talking about insurances, and in some cases they already have. So yeah, I until we start working with robot companies, we never thought about that, but that's like, I think like a way beyond what everyone think. And sooner, like as service robot is working in the environment that is not completely controlled, like some people there, some other things are moving around, then like the ensuring your service is inevitable. So yeah, that's my observation in the last like year or so.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's so. Tra, did you follow up?
Yes, if I may, because Gaku hit on a very important point, is there's a difference between like control and autonomy. And while, you know, because we build robotics platform, and while we can make our platform completely autonomous, we don't do so because our end users do not wish to have it to be fully autonomous. And this is very interesting. I mean, the technology can take you there, but because you don't feel that there is quite that complete trust yet, that you want that control. So a majority of our larger enterprise clients say that we like the fact that we can control your robot. We rather that we can control it smoothly, and you know, we have this function called motion map, so it maps your motion completely, you know, exactly the same way. And they like that more so than the fact that, okay, this robot can do this thing for me. And so, you know, so this is really a reflection of what the end user wants, and the end user currently does not want full autonomy.
So yeah, designing to the user's preference. Yeah, I was going to ask a question about AI, but I thought that would just kind of be too broad. So and you know, this question, I mean, Shinya, do you have a point of view on this issue of liability? As you know, as a designer yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's a kind of a touchy subject. Like I said in my presentation, because of the complexity of the robots, it's really making it hard to pinpoint, you know, where that liability falls into. And there's always going to be a gray line, right? So I think that's the challenge of the insurance industry as a whole. And, you know, we might even have to work with the the governments to kind of streamline the rules and, you know, where to look, or where to draw that line, because it's never going to be black or white.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's a good segue into my next question. And this question is for you, Shinya. And it kind of overlaps with what you just mentioned. But, I think robotics insurance, service robotics insurance is still very nascent, very niche. What's necessary for it to become mainstream other than, the mainstreaming of robots?
I mean, I think one is there's still too many engineers involved. The number of people involved with robotics, there's just too many engineers, too few people who look at design, for example, right? I mean, people talk about it, but the non-engineer, or the vast majority of people, has to kind of feel that it's not a robot when they are faced with robot. And a lot of that has to do with the design, interaction, all that. So once we get more and more of the community involved in developing a robot, I mean, that should help. And that should bring new ideas. And that's why, I mean, I wanted to connect the dots, right? I mean, we're an insurance company, but we want to hear different perspectives, and maybe there's insurance opportunities that we haven't thought of. So I think that's a key for the, getting it more into the mainstream.
Yeah. So partnerships are not just getting different people involved, but formal partnerships, whether they be makers or tech firms or whatnot.
People especially people who don't think they have anything to do with robots, because everyone will eventually. I mean, people just aren't noticing it.
Okay, so you mentioned data in your presentation, Shinya. Is there enough data for in the marketplace for insurance to help them mitigate risk and actually be interested in this market?
Yes and no, right? I mean, there's gazillion of data, like I said. It's a lot of CSV files out there, I can tell you that. But what's lacking is a good way to make any sense out of that data. I think if you do a poll to ask engineers and people who collect data if it's being efficiently used, I think we'd have a quite low number of efficient use of the data that's available. So that's why, tools like what Gaku's company is making is a step towards that, visualizing the data that's out there, not just looking at CSV files with a lot of numbers and columns and rows, but being able to digest it in a way that humans can kind of appreciate and realize. I think that's more of the key, and that is quickly happening, I think, in the next couple of years.
Okay. Well, any additional thoughts, Gaku or Cha?
Yeah. So the amount of data wise, like you can collect so much data from robots, and like let's say in some cases, like you can collect the vibration data of like specific parts in like 10 millisecond order or so, and the amount of data quickly blow up. But in most cases, like if you are without thinking the purpose of data use and collecting a lot of data, like you waste the space and bandwidth. So like you have to start with what you want to do, and then like pick the data you want to collect. So that's I think like it's similar to the product-driven software development. So I think like and for ensuring or like giving a best rate for insuring robots, for example, there are a few aspects of robot which can be measured and then applied to your rate. For example, some customer is using robot every 5 minutes every day, while the other place it's running 10 hours. The likelihood of issue happening is basically related to the time of the robot in operation. So that's one aspect. Then you can measure the operation time, and our platform is very flexible to collect any a sensor data, usage data, as well as video clip. So yeah, with data, I think you can do it. But right now, I think it's a dawn of this a physical data collection. So a lot of people spending a lot of effort to build that foundation, and sooner or later, the use of data becomes the main field.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me follow up a little bit on that, because I mentioned in my intro that I do other businesses too, right? And one area that I kind of see a link is in the ad, business. Ad business has tremendously changed with the data, right? And there's a lot of new opportunities, tools, not just the ad, but there's third parties that use the data that's out there to optimize the click ratio, the success of an ad in a quantifiable way. So let's take that analogy and apply it to the data that we can get from robots. Maybe there could be a new software company that analyzes this vibration data, for example, and be able to pick the right parts. Maybe it helps vendors pick the right parts for stable operation. So there's a lot of these branching new business opportunities out there that I think it's going to be exponentially growing in the near future.
Okay, Rob?
Well, we collect a lot of user surveys, actually. And this is in-use survey. So as you are using the robot, or immediately after you use the robot, we usually ask, what is your experience like? And that really drives a lot of our design and our thinking of what are people comfortable with. And a big challenge for us is not just collecting the data in the robot itself, but collecting the human interactions with the robot, right? So I think that as a robot manufacturer, we always want to know how are you feeling when you are interacting with the robot, when you are driving this robot, when you are in the environment with the robot. So those are the kind of data that would be super interesting to us. And we are collecting that right now. And I think if we have a choice, we would love to just be able to observe that all the time. I think that would really give us incredible insights.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so we're kind of pressed for time right now. So we're going to we're going to open up the forum to our attendees and take questions from them. So I'm going to move forward. Here's a question that is not insurance related, but that's totally fine. This is from David Sheridan. I believe we all see that kids are and will continue to be generally accepting of robots. However, the challenging issue for Japan is better serving the aging demographic. An issue for robots in the US, particularly human-in-the-loop robots, relates to user acceptance and adoption of the particular robotic automation product or solution. Do you see this to be a challenge in Japan? I think the answer is a unanimous yes, but I want to open it up to our speakers.
I missed it. Yeah, I missed the middle part of the question. Can I?
Basically, is user adoption an issue in the aging market?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Adoption of robots.
Okay, so I have my answer. So did the robot actually have a better adoption than the other more like a computing mobile user interfaces? So I think like I see like elder people have difficulties like adopting new technologies. Like for example, my grandmother, like we cannot do this video conferencing because she cannot handle a tablet. Tablet is easy, but for her, adapting that is beyond her ability. But robot is actually like a better user interface. In some cases, like there's a human behind it, so it's more flexible. Like you can actually like communicate or interact with in a way you are interacting with other people. So I don't actually like I have more like a positive feeling about the robot adoption, and some robot just like do the work without interacting with you, like probably it's there, but and like not interfering you, but doing the work. And the only thing you need is acceptance. And as I mentioned earlier, like as you start to see robots every day, then like you get used to it very, very quickly.
Tra, you're familiar with the Japan market.
Yes, we are.
And the aging market in particular. So what is your take?
So, we started OmniLux in 2015, and when the telepresent robot was debuted 2 years later, the market that we wanted to go into was aging care. But wow, adoption in the United States is tremendously challenging. And the reason is because it's very tough to put a robot into the workflow. And you can imagine, I mean, a nurse, a nursing home is already very busy every single second of her day. So, to put in a robot and saying that, oh, this robot is going to reduce your workload wasn't the case. So this is truly where the value wasn't completely delivered to this person so that they can adapt their workflow around it. So that was a challenge. What we're seeing in the trends with Japan is because of the workforce ratio, as you can see, is that you don't really have enough staff, right, to deliver the right amount of care. So now you're truly at the point where, okay, I need help. And in this way, technology will come in and help it. Now, whether the technology is robots or not was a point of debate for a while, but I think that with the pandemic is that robot really is at the forefront of this now because you need the contactless solution. And even now, I mean, even in the US, and we started seeing this trend, we are providing robots into a lot more nursing homes in the United States than ever before. And we are not even focusing in that market because the market finds the solutions now. And this is necessary because parents cannot, the family cannot visit the seniors in the nursing homes anymore. So this is the way for them to communicate because the robot is completely touchless to the senior in the home, right? They don't have to do anything. The person on the other side, the family outside of the nursing home is completely controlling the robot. The doctors is controlling the robot. So I think that it comes out of necessity again, but this forces the adoption, and now people are building robot into their workflow because it's necessary for them to do so.
Yeah. Very design oriented. Yeah, so Shinya, you and I, we talk about this often, the aging market. What is your take?
I mean, aging also, but more over Japan market, right? We're talking here. I think in general, Japan market is more, the threshold of people spending money is a little different, right? People here, if in the consumer market sense, right? People here spending $20 on something is like spending $100 or $50 in Japan. The level of using the threshold is a little bit higher in Japan. And I think that has led to the 80s, 90s when a lot of the electronics were first released in Japan because people were spending money and got it to the point where it gets released to the rest of the world. And similar kind of steps might happen in the robot sense. I mean, eyeball was popular in Japan, right? People spend more money, they allow, the threshold is a little higher, allowing, more expensive, newer gadgets to kind of test the waters before getting deployed in economy of scale. So in that sense, I think Japan's a good test bed, and again, we're being forced to do that anyway, but and it should help the aging community as well.
Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions. Here's the question, again on cost. Gaku, you're shaking, you're nodding your head, so I'm going to ask you. And this is something Shinya touched on earlier, but again, how do we really bring down the cost of robots and make them accessible to a broader market?
Okay, can I answer?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah. So I think the Trab discussed it earlier, but I think it's probably not going to, the consumers are buying hardware robot and pay full price, but you are buying a service, or someone buys a service and then like you use it. And in that case, the cost of like using robot for months won't be that crazy high. And I was actually thinking about this. You actually own a very expensive equipment, and in US you have two of them, which is cars, right? Like you are spending $20,000. Some people spending like $50,000 or even $100,000 cars, and you have two of them. And compare the price of the value you're getting from the vehicle versus robots. Like you're using it every day. You are like hiring a person. And if the cost of ownership or using it is less than the monthly payment of vehicle, which is probably a few $100s, then I think like there's no resistance to pay the price. Like you need to do something with cars, but probably like you are stop owning vehicles and owning robots or using robots.
Oh,
Drop.
wow. I think it comes a lot down to marketing. So Joe, this is back to you really. It's like, it's about PR, right? I mean, selling the American dream, selling about convenience and the idea that you have a car not being just a thing that drives you from A to B. It is a source of pride. It is an extension of yourself. It is a place of comfort. There's like all these things that comes with a car. And I'm speaking from the fact that I'm a transportation engineer by trade. I now run Omni Labs as a COO, but my background is in civil engineering and transportation. So we try to get people away from using car because car has all sorts of costs and liability, but at the same time, people love it, truly love it, especially in the United States. So why I wish that people see the value of robot and trade their cars for robots, I think that really comes down to what is the narrative? Beyond just providing value, what is a narrative that we can provide to the users? And how can we give that the same narrative to make them feel compelled to go buy a robot versus spending that on a $20,000, $50,000 car?
Yeah. Yeah, it helps to have a good product if to tell a compelling story. But no, I think over time the cost will come down. It's just a question of how quickly. And okay, so if there are no other questions, I think we're ready to end the webinar. So Yulia, anything that we should be mindful of in closing?
Sure. Thank you very much. First, thank you very much for such a great discussion. I know our team on the back end are all watching. We're having a separate conversation discussing how cool this all is. Thank you so much for sharing. If you would like to carry on this conversation in the virtual networking room, our global networking room is currently open. Just click on the link I've just pasted in chat to go there. We have 2 more industry insights coming up on the risk and insurtech and ethical hacking. This sounds really interesting. So if you would like to attend, please go back to where you came from, to the sign-in page, and go directly to the session. And if you could take a 1-question survey to let us know how we did today, we'd really appreciate that. And with this, thank you so much, Joe. Thank you, SOMPO. It was great.
And again, I'd like to, on behalf of SOMPO Digital Lab, I'd like to thank Tra and Gaku, and also Shinya for really taking the time to share their thoughts with us today. I think it's very, very illuminating. This is a new field for me as well. So thank you again, and I hope we can do this again sometime in the near future. And thank you again for your help. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And please stay safe.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so
Stay
much.
safe. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.